Hi there, Tony DeBonis here from Starline Windows, and welcome to Starline Windows Window Talk. Today I'm going to be sitting down with a very special guest and discussing topics around the window and door and construction industry. If you do enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to us on all our social media platforms. And if you're in the need for windows and doors, please contact us at head office at 604-882-5100. We'd be more than happy to help you. June the 5th here, I'm sitting here with Michael Woodman. I've got a hat on today because the last videos I get a big distracting glare from the sunroof, or the skylight I should say, or sunroof, whatever. But yeah, so Michael Woodman. So tell me about your background. How long have you been in the window industry?
Well, I started in the window industry in 1983.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I used to do finishing work, cabinet maker, and just kind of levitated to the window business. I was working for a lumber yard, and I started selling windows out of there because some of the older guys, and I'm an old guy now.
Yeah, you are.
They wouldn't do that.
They didn't want to do it.
They waited for a sales rep to come in and quote their job, and so once a week a guy would come in and price the packages out, and I had a couple to do, so I said, what do I do with these? Well, you just leave them in this bin and he'll come and do them. And I said, well, it can't be that hard.
Yeah.
So I started doing it that way, and because of that, I moved into the window business from a wholesale window manufacturer in Alberta.
Yeah.
But started doing that.
So you were hands-on and eventually got on the road?
I was on the road right away.
Right away, yeah.
And my business portfolios and the tools that were given to me was a briefcase,
yeah,
pens, notepads, a price book, and a toolbox.
You just go meet builders.
And I would go meet the dealers.
Oh yeah.
Go to sites to fix windows, because there was no such thing as service departments back then. You were the sales rep. They called you the field representative, and that was selling the product, servicing the product, did it all.
So that was like adjusting windows, adjusting patio doors?
Yeah, going out, not throwing installers under the bus, but telling guys how they didn't do this correctly and having to show them how to do it correctly. So a lot of hands-on,
And that hasn't changed. We still see some problems out there with installation.
Yeah, lately what I've been doing is, if it's a new set of framers or a new set of installers, I'll go meet them and tell them what I expect to see them do.
Yeah.
So that you don't have issues after the fact.
Exactly. Yeah. So how long have you been at Starline now?
I've been at Starline for 8 years. It's been great.
And what have you learned about Starline Windows as a company compared to the other ones that you worked for before?
Well, Starline is, we're big, but we're not too big.
Yeah.
We're not a multinational company. Like we service British Columbia for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
There are some other ones that occasionally might pop up.
Yeah.
But concentrate on BC. So we're made for this environment. We're designed for this environment, and it just takes a lot of the extracurricular that you have to do when you're dealing with like multiple provinces where your product is shipped to. We really concentrate on here. I really like that about it, because we're BC. Yeah.
Also must feel different too, being like a BC owned and operated family business compared to a larger company that could have a board of directors, etc. Right?
Very much so. It's I remember you telling me after I was here for about a week, like, you don't need to see me in here.
Mm-hmm.
Because my job is to go out and meet people and
That's right.
And do the work, and I do come in here when I need to print something off.
No.
If I'm in the area, it's easier to stay here than go back home and work.
Yeah.
But I pretty much start my day every day at home.
Yeah.
I'll try and schedule all my appointments in the morning, with the odd occasion where afternoons I may have somebody that wants to come into the showroom.
Sure.
Product.
Yeah. So you do your field visits site visits in the morning before noon, say.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important because it's old school selling still, right?
When I first started in the window business, I covered all of central Alberta.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in my car making stops along the way. So, and that was from like Red Deer, my four corners were Lloydminster,
Yeah.
Consort, Jasper, and Rocky Mountain House.
There you go.
And I would do that whole trip.
Yeah.
Over 4 weeks.
There you go.
Where I scheduled it, or where I was going, where I was staying overnight, who I was going to see.
So you become a familiar face. Right?
Yeah, it was always, the field reps here.
Yeah.
And you know, you'd go in and some guys would call me knowing when I was coming, and they would set appointments up for me.
Yeah.
You know, so I would do that with their customers just to help them out, because most of these guys were lumber yards or glass shops, and they had so many other things to do that they didn't have the knowledge or take the time to.
And you still do that to this day, basically, what you're saying. Is you go out in the morning after you do your quotes in the morning, you go out to see your guys. They must be happy to see you because you're a familiar face.
Yeah, I've been in the Okanagan since 1991, and
so there's not many people that don't know you in the construction industry.
no, I'm pretty well known. I used
Yeah.
to be on the board of directors for the Home Builders Association.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the people you meet are more not just industry related. Sorry.
Yeah.
I had 4 kids. They all played sports.
Yeah.
I met guys through sports
There you go.
that were
Yeah.
builders.
Yeah.
I still deal with them today. And now I'm old, so I have grandchildren. And
There you go.
I've met builders through my grandchildren
There you go. Good.
that I'm dealing with now.
Well,
So
it's networking in the community, right?
very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I started in the Okanagan, I was in an office environment when I was, because I eventually left the road and was in an office, just stayed in the
Yeah.
Edmonton area.
Yeah.
So all your meetings were in offices with the big head honcho, suit and tie.
Mm-hmm.
Came out here. I more or less got recruited to work at the window company that I started with here.
In Kelowna.
And it was no more of that. There were no offices. You
Yeah.
met guys, you crawled into the hole and talked to the guys that were, you know,
In the
doing the
trenches.
footings,
Yeah.
and that's how you worked, you know.
And some of those framers you dealt with are guys in the trenches. In the younger days, they were doing the hard work. Now they're builders.
Now they're the builders.
They move up.
There's actually sons of builders that are builders now.
Yeah.
That I've
You
dealt
dealt with the father, now
I've
you
dealt
deal with
with
the
the
sons.
father. Now I deal with the sons.
Now you just got to wait for the third generation, the grandson.
Yeah, well, I'll be gone by then.
So that's talking about single family. What about multifamilies?
Multifamily, that's, I think, the one. I do a lot of multifamily work in the Okanagan, throughout BC, actually.
Yeah.
That's, in my opinion, that's where Starline, that's where we shine. We're experts at this.
Why do you believe that?
Because at previous companies, when I did a multifamily, I did it all myself. I did.
The quoting,
I got the quotes.
takeoffs, everything.
I did all the takeoffs. I priced all the packages out. If there was engineered shop drawings required, I liaised with the guys who were doing the engineered shop drawings, who were third party.
You'd be dressing all the changes and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would run the job site from quote to final. And then coming to Starline, it was, I still do some of the takeoffs. I still look at the job. I want to know what's involved in every job.
Yeah.
We do have an estimating department that will take that, review it for all the code. And there's a lot of code changes in BC in the last few years.
Which is important now because you don't want to miss anything.
No, if you get stuck with something, you know, we have a boneyard.
Yeah.
And I try not to contribute to the boneyard.
There you go.
You know, so I think in the 8 years I've been here, I think I might have 8 windows that I actually had to bring back.
So let the estimating and drafting and takeoff people do that part.
Yeah, and the important thing about that is it gets laid out to the to the construction company who we're bidding to. This is what we're giving you.
Yeah.
When it gets to the point of we're getting the contract, we're signing the contract, that then gets put into the next phase. We get a project coordinator, a contract manager is assigned, then a project manager is assigned in Surrey.
Yeah.
And that project manager takes that and he coordinates all the deliveries. He coordinates pretty much all the service if there's any to be done. If it's a 6-story building, we can deliver it. He'll arrange it to deliver floor by floor
Or
or
elevation.
elevation by
yeah.
elevation.
Yeah. Or what about if the job is in terrace or smithers like we've done before?
We've done that. We will direct ship to a site. There's obviously cost to that, but it makes it easier for the guys who are building the product, building the jobs, to understand that they have a couple of guys that they can speak with, who are right on what they need. You know, the other thing that I didn't mention was we also have our own in-house engineering.
Yeah.
So all our shop drawings, all our deliveries, everything is in-house.
We also have a quality assurance technician, field service that will babysit, you know, and we're babysit the water test, right?
Yeah,
Oversee, sure.
we have one that's assigned, and he will go to the field inspection if they require it. There's a lot of times we don't even get the calls.
Yeah.
Because it's the guys who are doing the field tests,
They're familiar with us.
they know our product.
They know that we're going to pass.
So, you know, if it's ever come to the point where, you know, we actually have to send somebody out, we will.
Yeah, we will. Yeah.
You know, so the thing about multifamily is there's a lot of details that need to be done on site with the different trades.
There is. Yeah.
We're trying to make it easier for those guys so that they don't have, like, the site supervisors and the project managers, so that they don't have to worry about what's happening with the windows.
And that's why it's important, like you said, to let estimating do their job, review all the plans and the drawings, because one little screw up could cost a fortune.
Yep.
Versus a single family home where you just mess up one window on an elevation.
Yep. And again, like I said, I like to take a look at the jobs anyway, so that I can, because I give input. I'm not one to just say, well, that's what's on the plan, just do it.
For both single family and multi?
Single family more so, multifamily, yes, because multifamily, you know, the fact is that budgets are very important to a multifamily builder. And if there's things that,
a cost savings idea,
we know you're going to pay more money for this that isn't adding any value to the building.
Yeah.
You know, I'll make the suggestion.
Like a certain height patio door or an unnecessary transom in a window.
Yeah, the way the configurations are put together, I do that with a lot with single family, where I still have builders that give me the plans and go, just do what you do.
Yeah, they trust you.
And I make the decisions and give them the information and the facts of, this is why you should do this. Over time, I've seen, you know, I've supplied thousands of houses with windows, and multifamilies, you know, I wouldn't call those, they're thousands, but you know, probably hundreds in the multifamily total buildings. So it's just becoming, for me, it's easy for me.
It's easy for you. What about triple glazing? Have you seen an uptake in triple glazing the past 6 months, 1 year, 2 years with step code?
Triple glazing it's taken off, I would say, in the last 2 years. Step code in BC is now, you know, part of the building landscape, and you need to have an energy report done on every house. Windows, to me, I would say that when they design the buildings for the energy models, you know, you can only frame it with certain materials. You can only put so much in for a HVAC system. So the windows bear the brunt of all the energy reports, because they ask us to do things that just don't make sense. Big giant windows in a building, that we can't meet it with that.
Especially right now, we're seeing in the Okanagan with high solar heat gains are recommended. And then you got heat pumps and air conditioning companies that are scrambling to try to keep up.
Yep, and that's exactly true. Like even the HVAC people,
Mhm.
they don't have a lot of discrepancies in what they're going to do.
Exactly.
Heat pumps and furnace systems, they're about as energy efficient as you can get. It's just them deciding on the total square footage of the building, how much they need, for volume to move the air. Us, we're a permanent part of the building. And
Yeah.
so triple glaze has become more evident when there's large sections of glass. So there are times where, I'll go in and say, you need to reduce the glass.
Because even triple glazed unit, like whether it's 6x6 or 8x6, is only so efficient compared to an insulated wall, 2x6 wall, right?
Yeah,
You can only do so much.
the reality is the windows are the weakest part of the house for energy efficiency.
Exactly.
We're trying to make it as good as possible. So in doing that, the designers, they don't get that part of the system. They don't understand, yeah, it's a big window. Well, it's also a 400-pound window.
Mm-hmm.
So who's going to deliver it? Who's going to install it? Who's going to service it? Generally speaking, when you get into the big, large windows, they're the ones you're going to have issues with because one, the installation is not that good.
Yeah.
And it's not that good because it's very hard for them they can't manhandle that window.
Mm-hmm.
When you have to get 6 guys to grab a window to put it in place.
Yeah.
If it's on the second story, it makes it even worse.
I like the old days when it was just 2 guys.
Yeah, 2 guys, they did it and they could go start to finish. Well, now there's a building envelope that they have to do. So we're getting to the point where even in single family, you're going to need someone who knows how to install a window and what difference is there. And every manufacturer has a little different installation detail. And I think that's one of the things that our engineers have come up with in ours is they've designed it to, this is the detail that we know will work.
Yeah, what we recommend.
So we give that as Starline's opinion, but we've done tens of thousands of windows, and haven't really had any big issues.
There you go. So Michael, you or your wife, your son, your daughter are building a new house today. What windows would you recommend?
Well, to me, I still think standard casement windows are better than a slider.
How come?
Because a window is designed to you want to block as much of that hot and cold wind coming through the house. So a casement window is designed with a heavier frame, a little heavier frame, more air chambers, which in reality vinyl's as cold as aluminum. So they're built with air chambers so that cold doesn't conduct from inside to outside. The units are triple weather stripped. So when you're opening and closing the window, you're bringing the window to the weather strip. So you're sealing it at 3 points.
Whereas a sliding window just has basically
sliding window is a friction fit
mohair
that is there to stop as much as it possibly can.
Yeah.
But a slider window is designed to slide.
Exactly.
And if there's no room for it to slide, if there's too much restriction on it, they don't slide.
They won't open.
I've seen product on the market where triple glazed sliding window. One, you can't slide them; they're too heavy.
Too heavy.
And 2, they're so tight trying to get them, and that's part of the problem.
Exactly.
So it's people doctoring the low end product, trying to get it closer to the high end product, but the cost difference just isn't right between a slider and a case window. The other systems that are available right now too, that's going to be coming on stronger, and is tilt and turn windows.
And we're doing those now.
We're doing tilt and turn windows. We have a sort of tilt and turn. It's not a tilt and turn, but we have a lift and slide style sliding door system. It's a game changer. It's
compression seal, of course.
Compression seal,
multi-point lock.
Multi-point locks included, solid sill system.
Yeah.
One finger operation. there's so many advantages to that, and like I said, with the sizes that are being drawn, well, in the last, I don't know, maybe 15 years, patio doors used to be 5 foot and 6 foot by 6'8"
Yeah, maybe an 8 or a 9
on occasion.
on occasion.
So now what you're getting is we're getting 10 foot, 12 foot, 16 foot, 20 foot
20 foot.
by 8 feet high.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're asking for 9 foot high, which I never understood the relevance of putting a 9 foot high unit in.
Yeah.
But as these get bigger, what you want to call the commodity style door,
Yeah.
it's a 4 foot by 8 foot panel.
Just can't keep up.
You can't maintain that well enough, because once it goes in,
Yeah.
no window manufacturer comes and gives you a yearly maintenance visit.
The great thing about the new compression door that we're doing, we have done some that are 20 feet, I've heard now at head office, but they come, basically we deliver them just with the frame only because the doors are so heavy, they're reinforced with steel. So our guys will go and install them, and then we go and cyclase it too. So it's a lot easier for the framer if they bring it to the hole, or even the installers are bringing it to the hole.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a big convenience that these guys really like to have.
Yeah.
I know just our standard basic 12 foot sliding patio door, we don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's available, but they don't get that. So these guys are
They're
manhandling that door unit into place, trying to set it all up, put it in.
They're hating it.
They don't like it. They would prefer if we could do the installation, and we do offer it. And these doors just make it that much simpler. That we can get it in place, we can adjust it properly, we can get it set up, and they're more than happy with these doors.
What colors are we seeing here in the Okanagan, Michael? Like your last 10 years, 12 years, what have you seen? And then in the past, what colors for windows and doors have you seen that have trended out?
So if you look at what you're talking about with colors, so like 25 years ago, everything was white. The next phase that came in was beige. So beige was the new hot color. And so it was white or beige. Over time, probably in the last, I would say, man, even before I started working here, beige was pretty much gone.
It was trending out.
The thing with colors that you got to worry about is fading. Fading will naturally happen. You know, most products are guaranteed for like 10 years that the finish will last. You see some of the beige ones. I drive by a house that was built 25, 30 years ago.
They look white now.
First beige, they're all white.
Just like vinyl decking.
Yeah, they faded out.
Mm-hmm.
So when beige kind of took a step back, white was still always the big premium color. Black became the next color.
Yeah.
It was a big feature on a house. It didn't, you didn't have to worry about what you were doing for decorating. But as time went by, in specifically the Okanagan, we're a hot climate. We're almost like a desert. So the temperatures hit, 40s. The window's probably, face of the window is probably 70.
So obviously, just like my black t-shirt or your white golf shirt, I mean, black absorbs more heat than a white, just like your truck is black, and I've got a white truck.
Yeah.
You can't touch your truck in the hot summer.
No,
you can't feel mine.
You can also can't clean it as well, because believe it or not, a black shows off more dirt than a white does.
Yeah, exactly. Like that window behind you, that black, they're harder to keep clean.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
They always are.
Just like a black vehicle, right?
So it's the black trend is still there, but it's kind of coming away.
Yeah.
Because guys that do eaves troughs and soffits, they're roofing guys, they're all into these black colors.
Yeah. They've got challenges too, I hear.
Gutters, after the black goes on,
expanding, contracting.
Almost immediately they're starting to oil can, so they wave.
Yeah.
And it's just the nature of the color.
Yeah.
So we have like one of the ways we've done is we have a drain hole on the bottom of all our windows.
Yeah.
In the black windows, we put another holes at the top
for ventilation,
so that air can move around through the extrusion, so that the air gets popped out. Black looks nice, but I think we are seeing more inquiries for white again.
Yeah.
Where they're doing their trim works might be a different color.
They could be black or charcoal. Or
Yeah,
something.
we have what we call a black charcoal. That's, to me, it's a dark gray. It still absorbs the heat, but a little less.
A little less.
But I think we also have a platinum, which is like a silver color.
Yeah.
That hasn't taken off quite as much as I thought it would. I've done a few packages with them. White's still number one.
It's timeless too, right?
Well, it's timeless because white goes with everything.
It does, yeah.
You know, you're when you're into black, you're very specific onto what your colors have to be on your house.
Exactly.
You know, so there's not a lot of hedging on that. But if you use white, you can highlight the white window and still get some of those same colors on your house.
100%. So, Michael, in your opinion, why did builders choose to deal with Starline windows?
I think what I found over the last few years being in the Okanagan, there's a number of window companies that are available to be, you know, supply product out here. The one thing about Starline is not just considering the Okanagan, but in BC in general. So we are based in the Okanagan. We sell it from here. We ship it from here. We service it from here. All the people are local.
Yeah.
In the past, I'm going to say the past 5 years, there's been a number of outside window suppliers that have come into the area. They don't deliver it themselves. They don't like to send people to service it.
Good point.
Because it's a long distance away.
It's too far, yeah.
And we're a face.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just an email, you know, and a phone call. We're a face.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that kind of, you know, with the new age, with, you know, everything's, you know, the internet and you know, email society and the way things, you know, social medias take off. There's been less of that face-to-face meeting.
I know, it's changed.
I myself will never do that.
Mm-hmm.
I do the emails, and yes, it's convenient, and I do the text messages, and I do the phone calls. But I pretty much can tell you that I know the face of every person that I deal with.
Yeah.
I make it a point to say, hey, let's meet. I want to know who you are, and I want you to know who I am, so that when you're talking to me, you know who you're talking
Put
to.
a face to a name, face-to-face contact.
You know, and so it's. I think that's the biggest thing that's happened here. That's one of the things that I like about doing my job, because, you know, I can be a talker, I can listen, but, you know, I like to know people that I deal with. And my best customers, the guys that we become friends.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and I think that's more important than, because business is business, but
yeah,
friendship is also part of it, because you want to be able to trust the person you're dealing with. I want to trust the builder I'm dealing with. So for me, it's more about, I'm here to do service for you.
Yeah.
You know, that my job is to sell you the windows that you're going to require for this build to what I think should be, you know, what really works. Because I've seen a lot of mistakes made in a lot of houses where if you just do what's on the plan, sometimes the people aren't happy with what they get on the plan.
Sometimes you can drive by a house and say, oh, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And it's like I've never been much of a guy for trends.
Yeah.
And by trends, I mean, you know, color trends or something. Like there's guys out there that have 150 available colors.
Yeah.
Sure. But that's not what's important.
Well, you can't be everything to everybody. That's
No,
what we've
you
always
cannot.
said, right?
So you're talking about the basic necessities of what a window is made of and what it's for. A window is made to, one, let light into the house, two, let you see out of the house. You know, in the wintertime, you know, you want your windows have to be there so that you're not feeling that cold.
Yeah.
Summertime, it's the reverse. You don't want that heat. We're in the stage right now of step code, energy models, energy reports, where the people that are doing the energy modeling, it's generic. It's really generic. They don't
Yeah.
see it that way, but it's
yeah.
generic. It's designed for one area of the market.
Exactly.
And in the Okanagan, where we get 2.5 months of winter, we're lucky.
Yeah.
Our major concern is heat.
It's heat. Yeah.
And so the windows have to block as much of that heat as they possibly can, because the low E coatings haven't really changed that much. They've been, the technology's been around for
20 years.
25 years probably, but really only started really taking off like,
Yeah.
honestly, it's like less than 18 years ago.
Exactly.
Before that, it was all clear glass.
When it first came out, I remember it was an option.
It was an
You
option.
can choose clear glass or low E, and we
Yeah.
had some builders at the time saying, "Oh, we just want it for the south or west elevation."
Yeah,
because it was something new.
that's right. They didn't understand the
Yeah.
concept of it. There was also only one type of low E available at the
That's
beginning.
right. That's right.
And that was the first, like the genesis of Windows was
Mm-hmm.
a hard coat low E. That's what was available.
Low E argon, yeah.
And now it's, there's 2 or 3 different types of low E coatings you can get on the glass.
Triple silver, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is solar heat gain is being reported in these energy models that they want a certain number, and in the Okanagan it's like
Pointless in the winter because we don't see the sun.
we don't see the sun, and in the summer it's like so the solar heat gain
Yeah.
coefficient is how much heat you can gain from the outside, and the function of that is for winter months.
Yeah.
Summer months, you don't want that heat gain.
No, and that glazing system that you're talking about now is working so hard that glass is getting so hot, just doing all it can to stop that sun's energy, that it transfers to the glazing ledge.
Yeah.
It transfers through the window frame. It transfers to the trimming on the outside, the metal siding, whatever they use, the hardy.
Everything gets affected.
Everything's affected.
There's a reflectant on this glass, and I've seen reflectant on the glass where it's faded furniture on a
Yeah.
house that never moves
Yeah.
on the outside because of that heat reflection. So
That reflection I've seen burn landscaping plants.
yep,
You know,
exactly.
it just fries them.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many people have ever gone into like an artificial turf situation where that's what people are putting in some of their yard. You can't walk on that in the summertime.
No,
It's so hot.
it is it.
Because the little rubber pellets that they put in there, I don't know if it's rubber or not.
Okay,
They're
yeah.
black,
Synthetic, yeah.
and it's hot. You
It
technically have to water your artificial lawn.
And
So
some people use the artificial lawn for their pets too.
they do.
Poor paw.
Yeah.
Poor little paws.
Yeah. It's so things have changed quite a bit in residential windows, how they're being designed. So I think my role as a window salesman is to make people understand what they're going to be living with.
Yes.
What you want to worry about, what's in your house. I don't want you to bake in the summertime.
Mhm.
Even the number of opening windows today,
I know.
greatly reduced because nobody's opening their windows during the day.
Yes, that's when they got air conditioning.
Your air conditioning is the key in a hot climate like we're in.
Exactly.
And, nighttime, yeah, after 10 o'clock, you can open your windows up and you're not really getting that much heat.
But some home designers and architects, they're still drawing plans with every window opening.
Multiple window
Yeah,
openings.
which ends up costing them more money
Yep.
because they're paying for an opening window.
Yeah. And-
Screen and hardware and all that stuff. You may as well be putting that value into the glazing,
Yes.
right?
Yes, and that's what I've been telling people. You put an opening window in a pantry.
Yeah.
What are you going to the pantry for?
To open the window.
You go into the pantry to get product to bring into your
Yeah,
kitchen.
you're not going to open a window.
You're not opening that window.
Exactly.
So bathrooms, ventilation, bedrooms, egress and ventilation. But some of these large new great rooms that are out there,
Oh yeah.
most of them have a sliding door system in
Yeah.
there. You know, you may need one, maybe two in that whole room.
Mhm.
And I've seen
Little cross.
cases where there's 8 in
Yeah.
a room.
Yeah.
It's an extra expense that you don't need to use because you're not going to use that product.
And then sometimes this is where you'll see on drawings is that they're drawing in these opening windows in a great room, living room area, and then you're looking at posts, looking at T-bars.
Yeah, you're
Right.
looking at posts, T-bars, you're looking at some of the sizes that are being drawn in there.
Yeah.
I've seen drawings where they had a 42 by 84 inch casement window that we want the whole window
That's
open.
like a door.
And that's what I tell them.
Yeah.
That's the size of a door.
It's the size of a door.
Hardware can only take so much.
Yeah, because you got the extra weight, right?
The extra
Hanging
weight
out,
of the
suspended,
sash.
heating up in the summer.
I have a 3 foot by 5 foot opening casement window in my house.
What color is it?
It's brown on the exterior.
So the old brown days, yeah.
But when that window gets opened,
Mhm.
it's south facing. That window cannot be opened more than 8 inches
If you do, what
if
happens?
I want to close it at night.
So if you do open it more than 8 inches,
Well, what happens is the window will start to sag over time. The heat affects it. Everything affects it. You know, weight. When you put weight on something, weight makes things go down.
so you're saying you would have to help close it?
I have to actually bring it in and help close it.
Yeah.
If not me, if someone else in the house opens it up all the way,
Yeah.
I'm taking that and I'm saying no. You only need to get the ventilation in here 6, 8 inches a foot. That's it, so that it doesn't have that opportunity to just sag. It's not carrying all that weight. It's closer to the hinge.
That's a great point. And that's why we often say no, right? When you're seeing plans and you're doing a quote for a builder or a homeowner, there's sometimes where we're actually going to say, no, we can't do this. Well, how come? Because
Absolutely.
it's too big. It doesn't meet our restrictions that we have.
And it's, I think the issue is that a lot of people see those windows out on the field.
Mhm.
Doesn't necessarily mean they're right.
Exactly.
The bigger window is, again, weights, big concern, getting them into place. But the larger they are, the more extreme the weather conditions can come into the house through that big piece of glass.
So you're okay saying no
I've said no a lot of times.
and advising on a recommended
Yeah,
configuration change. So
we can change. I'm just working on one right now where I've gone through and changed the whole house
Mhm.
because they had way too many large windows. And I'm saying, looking at the detail of the house, we can change this up by separating these windows.
Mhm.
So you're not having, face it, there's a piece of vinyl with a piece of steel inside it that's supposed to hold that window together.
Yeah.
It is designed to go a certain, to carry a certain amount of deflection.
Yeah, sure.
But there's an aspect ratio for everything.
Yeah.
And when you get into those, we can only provide so much reinforcement. After that, you're looking at more flexing of a window. And I've seen it. I've seen flexing of windows where it's an oversized unit. You can, when you're there, you can
Mhm.
hear it
Yeah, it's moving.
and you can see it. And so, I'm trying to get people away from trying to do these big expanses of glass. Part of our problem is we deal in Canada. The internet's out there.
I know.
We see photos and things drawn into plans.
Yeah.
That might come from Southern California or Australia.
Yeah, Mexico
Where-
even. Yeah.
Single glazed windows, aluminum, and no
Yeah.
big deal, but you just can't have that here.
Not for Canada, that's
It's
for sure.
not going to last.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, what do you see in the construction industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're still going to see the single family market. Multifamily is still out there because there's a housing shortage for people that they can afford to move into. So multifamily is there for a certain aspect of the market. Single family are still there. I believe you're going to see, and again, this is my opinion, there's a lot of big houses being built.
Overbuilt.
And I think you're going to see people start downsizing the size of their houses. Family units are smaller than they used to be.
Mhm.
There's 6 people in my family. And I live in a 1,300 square foot house. I grew up with 10 people in my house when I was growing up. Under 1,000 square
Yeah,
feet,
900 square feet.
one bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and so there are some conveniences that people want to have, but some of the sizes of the housing, I think that's gonna come down. Just because, one, for affordability, because things haven't really gone down in price. The products that are out there today, they're more expensive, and that's part of giving people a living wage. And so when all that happens, product costs go up.
I think you're right about the housing, the size of housing coming down, like to a 2,500 square foot, 2,000 square feet, because now you can build that brand new home on a city lot, and you can then have a carriage house behind you as a mortgage helper, or you can have, the in-laws there, your grandparents, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah,
The kids.
and that's the changing market. Is some of that's happening because there's a lot of people out there a lot of young people that can't afford a house.
Can't afford a house, yeah.
They can't afford the down payment. They can't afford the time. Some of them don't want to be tied down to a place anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But so there's a lot more of the in-law or the families moving back in together. In some of the big houses, it works great. Some of the smaller ones, maybe not as great.
No.
But
a detached one in the back.
There's a lot more carriage houses going in. There's a lot more garages with suites above them. They're either income producers, or helping to produce a little bit of income. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I see the market going. There's still a lot of developments out with, 0 lot lines. So it's eave to eave houses, 6 to 8 feet between.
Pass the ketchup, pass the salt.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, that's still going to be there, but I think you're going to see a trend to a little bit smaller house for affordability.
I think you're right. All right, Michael, I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate this discussion, the Starline Windows Table Talks, and we'll have to do it again.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Had a great time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony.